I'm the patient, not the shrink. A true story about living with bipolar, unipolar, and dyspraxia. By Cal Kennedy. Everyone has a book in them. This is mine. Read by Malcolm Gooding. In memory of Ian Moore, husband, father, grandfather, brother-in-law, and friend. Born on the 14th of May, 1947, died on the 26th of July, 2017. And Monica Jeanette Roslin, born on the 5th of January 1951, died on the 8th of March 2018. Foreword. Part 1. As they pushed the gurney down the long, narrow corridor, I noticed the lights above passing very quickly. I didn't have any idea what was happening, why I was so confused, and where I was. All I knew was the pain, mental and physical, that gripped my body and my mind. We entered a small room with bright lights over a table. I felt hands grip my body and move me onto the cold, steely surface. Just before I succumbed to the injection, I saw the doctor approaching with the electrodes. All I could think of was that they were going to fry my brain. After avoiding the obvious for nearly 50 years, I had to finally come to terms with the fact that I was ill, deadly ill. Apparently, all people are created in the image of God, so then he must be bipolar. If there actually is a God, and I have the honor of meeting him someday, the first thing I will do is punch him in the fucking face. Australian comedian Jim Jeffries said in 2014, "I'm not afraid of dying. I don't give a shit. I hate life. I've never enjoyed one moment on this planet. I'm not worried about dying, 'cause I'm an atheist." I know it's a strange way to start this book, but all will be revealed over the next 11 chapters. This story tracks my life living with unipolar and dyspraxia disorders, something I didn't know I had until my devastating mental breakdown in 2009, when I turned 49 years old. Unipolar disorder was an unheard-of illness when I was younger, and because I never became manic, nobody knew I had it. I've always been insane, with long intervals of horrible sanity. I am no one famous, well-known or special, and that's my point. We always tend to look at famous people who have disorders. But what about the millions of normal people that suffer from disorders every day? This is my attempt to create an awareness of these conditions from an average person's viewpoint. Most books are written from a psychiatric perspective, and very little is written by the people who actually experience mental disorders. I am Joe Public with mental disorders. Just one of 400 million. If somebody takes just one positive out of this book, I haven't done my job. They need to take at least 2 or 3 positives, and you thought a cliché was coming. Mine is not an "och, shame" biography either. You know, "Lassie, take Jimmy to the well to save Mary," but an opportunity to share some of my life experiences with those that have major disorders and those that care to know why. I'm willing to make the mistakes if someone else is willing to learn from them. I'm also not a seasoned writer, so this book is written in layman's terms, and I haven't taken out a thesaurus to find the most complex way of delivering my story. So if you're an English major, then this book is probably not for you. If you are human like me, maybe it will suit you. Medical experts may challenge my thinking and my arguments, but that doesn't faze me in the least. The more communication between medical minds and patients, the better. Maybe we will get to solutions a lot faster. I argue, theorize, and hypothesize all the way through this book, mainly about my own experiences. I'm obviously an expert on myself. Nobody knows me like I know me. I've tried to convey the feelings of hopelessness, despair, and mental anguish that a unipolar or bipolar person endures, and the irritation that a dyspraxia sufferer experiences. There are also lighter moments. I don't think you'll finish this book dancing around in merriment and joy. Hopefully, you'll find some of it a bit of a laugh. I hope I can at least convey a message to people without these chronic disorders, that we as bipolar and unipolar sufferers have to endure day to day. There are millions of us out there that need help, millions of average people. I will gladly share my experiences, but not advice, because advice is cheap and worthless. However, there are no sweeter words than, "I told you so." Who can I blame for my problems? Just give me a minute and I'll find someone. I do mention bipolar once in a while, as I've suffered very mildly from cases of mania, but not enough to share experiences with anyone. Therefore, I concentrate mainly on my unipolar disorder, as well as the effect dyspraxia has on me. I've also not worried too much about quoting statistics, because, as much as I have researched them, they're generally all different. For instance, some experts say that there is 1 in 10 people who suffers from major depression, and others say it's 1 in 5. Who do we go with? Because of those discrepancies, I've taken mean averages that seem to be agreeable to most experts. As for dyspraxia, it's been with me all my life, but was only recognized as a real disorder in 1975. At that time, it wasn't even called dyspraxia, so it was impossible to understand the effect it had, and still has, on millions of people. Dyspraxia has its own problems, which I will explain a bit later. But in essence, it's a motor function disorder that isn't at all depressing, other than making one's life extremely difficult and annoying. A more frivolous definition might be, it's like, well, Parkinson's light. Unipolar and bipolar disorders are not something you adopt as you get older, but something you're born with and carry with you for your entire life. It's mostly hereditary, and there are vast differences that affect sufferers. Most unipolar or bipolar people will have mild episodes throughout their lives, and probably not even realize they have depressive traits. But a small percentage of the population lives with constant major depression, anxiety, and fear of the next attack. Throughout this book, I haven't always referred to my disorders directly, but more to the impact they've had and have on my daily life as I grow older, until the actual mental plunge into the black hole. I go into great detail on how I try to get through each day without giving up, like so many people just like me. I show, through the first few chapters, how I got to the breakdown, and you will see how each part of the process became one big chemical explosion. I go through part of my schooling and also my time in the army, always carrying my disorders unknowingly. I introduce my family and some friends, people who shaped my life and mostly kept me sane. And I talk about my parents and siblings, some who suffer from these disorders themselves. The statistics on sanity are that 1 out of every 10 people suffers from a mental illness. Look at your 9 best friends. If they're okay, then it's probably you. It's like saying 1 in every 5 children born in the world is Chinese. That means my 5th sibling must be Chinese. But I digress. I think being bipolar is actually a virus. For example, my cat definitely has some sort of disorder. Most sufferers from a mental illness don't know they have it, so it never adds to the statistics. Plus, there are millions of people in rural areas like Central Africa, India, China, and South America who don't have access to medical care that will also have a mental disorder. In my calculations, there could be as many as 400 million people worldwide that have a partial or major mental disorder. When I was younger, I didn't even know what bipolar, unipolar, or dyspraxia disorders meant. If only I had known when I was a kid or teenager, or in my 20s or 30s or even 40s, and, well, at least before my breakdown. The World Health Organization recently named depression as the leading cause of disability globally. J.K. Rowling reminds us that it's so difficult to describe depression to someone who's never been there, because it's not sadness. I know sadness. Sadness is to cry and to feel, but it's that cold absence of feeling, that really hollowed-out feeling. Bipolar disorder, also known as manic depression, is the most devastating, debilitating, and terrible condition, other than maybe Alzheimer's, and dementia. Alzheimer's is a result of having dementia. Most Alzheimer patients are over 50 when it strikes. Alzheimer's is a disease which kills, whereas bipolar and dyspraxia are mental disorders that on many occasions lead to suicide. So in some way, it's also a killer. Bipolar disorder is a psychiatric issue that causes unusual shifts in mood, energy, activity levels, and the ability to conduct daily life activities. A sad reality with bipolar disorder is that it has a stigma. Most people can't come to grips with the reality of the condition and don't understand the realities and ramifications. However, if you still feel it's a stigma, then don't feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for yourself for not understanding me. There are more people with bipolar disorder than there are with cancer, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, and leukemia combined. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle we know nothing about. Illness kills. I have a psychiatric disorder. However, the money allocated for research for each of those conditions amounts to hundreds of millions of dollars, whereas bipolar receives just a fraction of that. This means that it is still a relatively unknown entity and regarded by many as an affliction, not a disorder. If you suggest to someone that it may be a good idea to see a psychiatrist or psychologist, they invariably relate it to being mad or crazy, so they won't go. Some say that anyone who goes to a psychiatrist should have their head examined.